to order at 8:46 a.m. Today, roll call, please.
Dr. Bankus?
Aye.
Mrs. Daniels?
Present.
Mr. Jorgensen?
Aye.
Mr. Loma?
Mr. Loma should be joining us shortly.
Mr. Milpackham?
Here.
Mrs. Nelson?
Here.
Mrs. Ott?
Here.
So we have 6 board members present in person. To start the executive session, Director Loma should be joining us shortly. Director Bankus, can you please make the motion to adopt the agenda?
Yes, I move that we adopt the agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Trudy, roll call, please.
Dr. Bankus?
Aye.
Mrs. Daniels?
Aye.
Mr. Jorgensen?
Aye.
Mr. Loma? Mr. Milpackham?
Here. Aye.
Mrs. Nelson?
Aye.
Mrs. Ott?
Aye.
The ayes have it. The motion has been adopted. Director Ott, we do have executive session today, so Director Ott, can you please make the motion to enter into executive session?
Yes, I move that the Board of Education convene into executive session with Superintendent Search Consultants Dr. Walt Cooper and Dr. Norm Ritter with McPherson and Jacobson LLC and preliminary superintendent candidates pursuant to Colorado Revised Statute 24-6402 4G to discuss documents made confidential by Colorado Open Records Act. The particular matter for discussion is the content of applications and supporting documents for superintendent candidates who are not yet finalists as defined by Colorado Revised Statute 24-72-204 3A11A. Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please, Trudy.
Dr. Bankus?
Aye.
Mrs. Daniels?
Aye.
Mr. Jorgensen?
Aye.
Mr. Loma?
Aye.
Mr. Milpackham?
Aye.
Mrs. Nelson?
Aye.
Mrs. Ott?
Aye.
The ayes have it, and for the record, Director Loma is joining us. So the motion unanimously passes. And with that, we will convene an executive session and reconvene back here at the boardroom approximately around 1 or 1:30 after we get done with executive session. Thank you.
Do I need my computer down here?
That's up to you. Okay, we are back after executive session, reconvening in the special meeting at 2:35 p.m., 2:34 p.m. We have one action item on the agenda, and that is Resolution 2022-53 declaring finalist for superintendent. Vice President Jorgensen, can you please read Resolution 2022-53 and make the motion?
It'd be my pleasure. Resolution 2022-53 declaring finalists for superintendent of Colorado Springs School District 11. Whereas the Board of Education has lawfully conducted a superintendent search pursuant to Colorado Revised Statutes 24-6402 3.5. And whereas the Board of Education has decided upon 3 finalists for the position of superintendent, now therefore be it resolved and declared by the Board of Education of Colorado Springs School District 11, the following persons in alphabetical order are finalists for the position of superintendent for Colorado Springs School District 11. Tammy Clementi, Michael Gall, and Peter Hiltz. Approved the 7th day, May 22. I move that the Board of Education approve Resolution 2022-53 to announce the individuals as finalists for the superintendent position.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. So to give some context to the community, as it has been communicated before, we had a total of 35 candidates who applied for the job. McPherson and Jacobson, the search firm the board hired, helped with the initial vetting process. All the applications were carefully reviewed, references checked, feedback from stakeholder groups were considered, and after that rigorous process, we narrowed that pool of 35 candidates to the 10 most qualified candidates with a mixture of experience, demonstrated ability to run larger organizations, and leadership abilities. On May 2nd, the board met in executive session for a little over 4 hours to review the 10 application packets. In addition, we got to hear directly from the candidates in a short video clips on their accomplishments, leadership styles, and their plan for the first 90 days on the job. After that process, the board settled on 5 candidates. Each of those 5 candidates were strong leaders with, in my estimation, the capacity to step in, hit the ground running, lead District 11 with vision, courage, and commitment. The board today met again in executive session starting at 8:45 a.m. and had the opportunity to interview each of these 5 candidates, met with 4 of the candidates in person and 1 candidate remotely. It was a challenge. We had a lengthy discussion to pick only 3 to advance as finalists. After careful consideration of what each candidate brought to the table, the board is delighted to name the 3 finalists. I want to thank all the candidates who applied and went through this process. It was obvious these candidates had invested a lot of time, resources, and energy into this process, researching District 11, watching hours and hours of board meetings, analyzing D11 data and existing plans that were in place. So these candidates had obviously done their homework, and in that process made our job harder in naming the finalists. But thank you again for applying for the vacancy from all of us from the board. And I also want to take a minute to thank our stakeholders for their feedback. Dr. Ritter and Dr. Cooper met with 10 different groups and put together a comprehensive report, 196 pages. It's shared on the public D11 websites. Employee, yeah, we got a bound copy, a hard copy for all of us. Employee groups participated, parents participated, and the student groups participated. So when it was all said and done, Dr. Ritter commented about how the level of feedback from our community was something that he hasn't seen in other school districts. So I want to thank our community for the thousands of touch points in terms of feedback. Your feedback helped guide our work. And we are also counting on you for the next steps in the process as we go through the public process now with the candidates, that you will stay engaged and provide us feedbacks as we go through the next steps. And that comes to the next steps. So the dates that are currently circled in the calendar for the candidates to visit School District 11 and go through that public interview process is May 23rd and May 24th. That's the Monday and the Tuesday. Candidates will tour some of our schools, and during that process, the board will also have a public interview. In addition, the candidates will get to visit with some of our employees, students, community members, parents. And all that schedule will be figured out on Monday in a meeting with Ms. Ashby, Deborah Ashby, and Dr. Cooper. After that meeting, we will have a clear itinerary that we can share with our community. And after that public process, the board will deliberate, consider the feedback we have received from the community, put everything together, including reference check, and announce the next superintendent of District 11. I want to emphasize that the entire process will be fully transparent with multiple community engagement along the way. The board is excited and we look forward to this process. I want to congratulate the 3 finalists, and we are delighted to host each of you and get to spend some time with you, and also look forward to your engagement with the community. Board member comments. Anything that I've forgotten you guys want to add?
I appreciate you explaining the process. Thank you.
Al, do you want to comment?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was impressed when I think they mentioned it, where you had almost 1,000 people, still stakeholders and individuals involved in the process, not including the board. And that speaks well of our community. And I also want to thank McPherson and Jacobson. They made our job very difficult. I mean, it was hard to dwindle it down to 5, to 10, and now we're at 3. And that speaks to the effort they put in. So and they made our job hard. Who we pick, So whoever gets the job, I think will be well served by either one of those 3 candidates. So I'm pleased with the process.
And I will just tag on to that McPherson and Jacobson made our job easy in the sense of providing the information for us and doing the vetting. Really appreciate your guys' hard work on your support on this. I can't imagine having gone through this process without your support, so thank you.
Anyone else? Comments? Director Art?
Thank you. I just want to reemphasize that there is that opportunity later this month for the public to listen in on those interviews and give us feedback. Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none? Roll call, please. Trudy?
Dr. Bankus?
Aye.
Mrs. Daniels?
Aye.
Mr. Jorgensen?
Aye.
Mr. Loma?
Aye.
Mr. Malpacum?
Aye.
Mrs. Nelson?
Aye.
Mrs. Ott?
Aye.
So the motion passes unanimously with a 7-0 vote, and as I said, we look forward to hosting the 3 finalists and going through that process. I also want to take a minute to thank Ms. Trudy Toole for sitting in here for Marcella today, and thank you. And before I adjourn, I also want to thank the board for, this was a heavy lift this week with 3 different meetings, so thank you. I appreciate each one of you taking the time to meet on a Saturday and spend this past 5 or 6 hours in executive session. Lastly, happy Mother's Day. I see 5, I'll include Trudy here too, so, and all the mothers in our school district too. So thank you, appreciate it. Hope you all get some time off tomorrow and you get appreciated and celebrated for what you do to our kids. And so, thank you. Happy Mother's Day. And with that, can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
I move that the Board of Education adjourns.
Second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Trudy, roll call, please.
Dr. Bankus?
Aye.
Mrs. Daniels?
Aye.
Mr. Jorgensen?
Aye.
Mr. Loma?
Aye.
Mr. Malpacum?
Aye.
Mrs. Nelson?
Aye.
Mrs. Ott?
Aye.
The ayes have it. We are adjourned at 2:43 p.m.